This is Amateur Faith Night, a podcast where real-life friends talk about real-life religion, where questions are encouraged, doubt is talked about, and following Jesus is our main priority. Let this be a starting place for you to research things and study them out for yourself. God is bigger than all of our questions, and it is okay to not have all of the answers.
So,
Ready?
We're starting.
Cut.
For reals.
Oh, wait,
Okay.
not cut. The opposite of cut. Go.
Wait, what do they do when they...
They go,
Yeah, but what do they say?
they say action.
That's right. I don't
Lights,
know why
camera,
it took
action.
both of us the hot second to figure that out. Okay, so, hi guys. I have a special impromptu guest, and this is Lori. We are at my house doing a little ex-UPC, I should say, get together. Not that it's... I mean, your husband's here. He's normal.
He's the only non-ex-UPC that's here.
So I feel like we kind of put him on the spot earlier too when we were
No, not at all.
asking him stuff.
Nope. He loves
Okay.
to talk and he's fine.
Because we were like, what does it feel like to be normal? What is that? Like,
And he would
please
say
explain?
the jury is still out on that, but I think he's very normal. But
So Lori and I were talking. We're like, hey, we have microphones. We should shoot a podcast. So here we are doing that. And because, as you know, I am awful at technology, we already recorded like 3 minutes into this and I missed it. So we're going to go back to what we were saying. But Lori has a YouTube channel. So if you're unfamiliar with her YouTube channel, I think do you tell your story or is it just topical?
I basically just try to tell my story and how I went through and left and the events of how that went and how to leave, basically, for me, how it went.
Okay. And it's called...
It's called We Left Legalism.
Okay. It's been around for a while because
We
when did you start
started,
that?
so when we first thought about leaving and I was studying and why wasn't church growing that we were in, I went to YouTube to see if anybody else had left. And at that time, there was only about 2 or 3 people that had stories. And so we watched different stories for about a year, and then we decided to pay it forward and start our own channel. So
Okay.
we started that in 2018, I believe.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that makes sense. We left in 2016. So I remember when all of that started coming out, like I remember watching it and like watching you change as you progressed as like the more
is
I think
she's still saved? Is she going
right.
to
I feel like the further away you get, sometimes you change, you glow up
do.
as a person, and it's like also actually amazing transformation. I feel like to watch people go
I
through
agree.
that, it's like a butterfly, you know.
to become the unique people that God made us to be?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
right? And we
Very.
could sit here and we don't look alike because we don't have the same hair and the same clothes. Not
But
making
I
fun,
bet
but
10 years ago we would have looked a lot
yes, we
alike.
would have. Also, don't judge because we're doing a barbecue and I look like a train wreck. So this was completely impromptu, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm wearing my barbecue clothes. It's fine. It is what it is. So we were kind of trying to figure out, like, well, we should do a podcast. What should we talk about? And I had been wanting to do one for a while, but I hadn't like studied it out, and Lori happened to mention it, and I was like, that is a great idea. And it's something that I never really had to struggle with personally because I feel like Jeremy and I got super lucky, super blessed. If you know, some people don't like using the word lucky, so I still catch myself saying, okay. But so when we left the UPC, we went right into a healthy church. So the church that we attend now, we've been attending for over 7 years, and we do attend. We're just not involved. And we weren't involved for a while because I couldn't get involved. But I never had the triggers of panic attacks going into the church. I never had an issue of having to travel to different churches around the area trying to figure out which one is healthy and whatnot. We got lucky. We fell into it. Very I feel very blessed in that aspect because I know a lot of people have come to me and have said, you know, I just can't even step into a church. There's just no way. So I think one thing that I do want to ask you, like, is it important to find a new church? Because a lot of people will tell you that they're fine without a church. And I respect that. Like, if that's where you are in your walk, that
Totally.
100%, you have to do what's right for you. And if you're the kind of person that gets anxiety or panic attacks from going into a church, then yeah, I feel like, hold on.
Maybe
I'm all paranoid about this now. Hold on. Jesus. Okay, we're good. Okay. Because I was like, I didn't check to make sure it was actually pulling that. But it is.
It is pulling it?
It is.
Okay.
So yeah. So where are you on your journey and what are your thoughts about that?
So let me step back just a bit. After we left, there was approximately, I would say, a year where we were looking around, and we'd always study churches online and watch the preaching, watch the music, and if it was even close to Pentecostal or loud or obnoxious, it was a definite no. Mm-hmm. We did find a church, and it was an Assembly of God church, funny enough.
Interesting.
When we lived in Lincoln, Nebraska. And we really, really liked just the preacher. He was down to earth, an older gentleman, and he taught. He did not yell. He did not make you feel guilty if you weren't at church. Just the triggers.
Right.
But in that time frame, I also attended a family member's church it was a very demonstrative church. The stage was full of very good singers, and the smoke and the band, and it was just very concert-like.
That seems very showy.
It was very showy, and panic attacks. I had a couple of panic attacks, and I was like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And my son, and I leaned over, my son could tell something was going on, and he said, just focus on something. Look at something in the background and focus on it, and then breathe. And I did, and got through the panic attack. But so we moved from the city that we were in with that church, and since that time, we'd been looking for other churches, something that my husband and I could attend, divorce and remarriage, blah, blah, blah. And so...
And he's Baptist.
And he was Baptist. Many, many years in a Baptist church. And so in our joining, he decided to leave that Baptist church. Okay. And so we're trying to find something that is our church now.
Oh, okay.
So we're in a fairly large city. There's a lot of options. There was a few things he was not interested in going, a few denominations he had been to before and was not interested in going to. Okay, so I looked at all the other things, and the church that we found was a Baptist church. So we started attending, and within a month, the pastors, there's two young pastors, the pastor of this church, called us for a meeting. Let's go out for a meeting.
That's like red flags to me already, because I'm like, oh no, if the pastor calls you out for anything, it's like
very,
no.
very concerned. But my husband kind of talked me down a little bit, and he's like, let's just see, what they have to say, what they want to say. And I think the bottom line of the issue was, in the Baptist culture, from what I could surmise, in the Baptist culture, and I know surmising is bad. I get it. Oh, totally get it. But from my thought process, how's that?
Right.
Same kind of word. From my thought process, I thought, well, they're protecting their flock, right? They're just protecting their people, and they don't know us. They don't know who we are. And this church was in a different area of town that you don't usually travel to go to a church.
Gotcha.
So it went fine. But one thing they did mention is that they do church discipline.
Oh.
And so I was very concerned about that. And I said, what are you saying? What is church discipline? I've been a part of terrible church discipline before, and heard about terrible church discipline. So what they explained was basically, if Joe goes out and gets drunk and gets a DWI, and it's in the paper the next day, and he's a deacon, well, they're going to need to address that, because they having a deacon on the board that is clearly drinking to excess and driving and doing immoral or I say illegal things.
Right. Definitely illegal to drink and drive.
Yes. So that made me feel, okay, I have no problem with that.
That makes sense.
That's an issue, or that's not an issue. So, it makes sense. So we continue to attend. But what's really kind of interesting is we haven't been there for a couple of weeks. We have no call. Nobody's calling us to say, hey, where you been? We're not members.
Gotcha.
I will say that. My husband and I have had many conversations about membership of a church. Are you a member of your church?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. What was that? What did that involve?
So basically, which they don't like force you, but if you do want to be a volunteer, they do have you go through their membership classes to make sure you're on the same page, but they also run a background check. So that way you can work with kids and stuff.
Okay.
So
that's fair.
I appreciated that because where we had always been was like small country bumpkin churches, and not that sexual abuse is strictly in the UPC. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not even saying that I personally experienced it, but I can see where it would have easily happened because they had zero checks and balances. Like anyone was allowed in the kids' location. And so the church we attend now, like we have hired police officers that work security. We have like a badge system. So if you're not wearing a badge, you're not allowed back with the kids. They have people guarding the children's area. So from that aspect, like I can appreciate doing the membership class, but it's also not to where we would have to like sign papers to leave or like, you know what I mean? Like make an announcement. We're not coming anymore. Or you could just walk off.
You could.
Yes. There's no repercussions from that or anything like that. I feel like for them, it's more of a logistical, legal standpoint.
Okay.
From what I've experienced.
Well, that makes sense. So then I know when you look for an organization or a church, the whole tithing issue is going to come up sooner or later. And I think our friend Ralph has taught us, and Deanna, in no uncertain terms, that I can't legitimately, although I believe in giving, I can't legitimately
pay 10%.
Pay 10%.
Yeah. We just did an episode about tithing. Like,
okay.
Yeah. And it was like infamous because we recorded like an hour and a half long video or something ridiculous and I lost it.
Oh,
and
no.
so we had to re-record it. And Jeremy was so mad because he put in all of this time and effort and it was bad. So we just released it a month ago, maybe. So okay. Definitely the same persuasion. Tithing's not a thing for Christians today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the lights have to be turned on.
Exactly. And I give to my church, like, and I fully think that you should, if you're going to attend somewhere and you're going to expect to be poured into or served, then you need to give back.
Yeah.
But I also feel like you need to look at the fruits too. You know, like I would not give to a church that wasn't giving back to the community.
Yeah.
And I also feel like when you give, if you're giving to other charitable things, you know, like if you see a homeless person on the side of the road and you buy them a meal, that's part of giving.
Right.
You know, it doesn't
completely.
All of it doesn't have to be like chalked up to giving to your local congregation.
Well, but you don't get credit for it though if you give it to the homeless person.
Well, maybe not with anybody here, but God notices.
I think God knows.
That's all that matters to me. The rest of it, whatever. Yeah. And that is something like, and I will say our church does not teach that tithing is necessary. The only thing that I've ever heard, and I can't sit here and like say exactly what, you know, their stance is on the ministers at our church. I've never actually had a sit down conversation with any of them about it. They do teach in giving, but he words it, and I don't agree with the way he words it necessarily, because he'll say 10% is a biblical principle. So he'll say you can give whatever you can, and they only ask for offerings like once a month, maybe.
So we did attend a church one time that as they passed around the plate, and they said, the plate is coming around, and if you are in need, please feel free to take out of the plate.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome.
So there were ushers at both ends of the aisle or whatever. And so I'm sure if you took out like 5 times in a row, there would be a problem. But we thought that was like incredible.
Mind blowing.
It was mind blowing. And I thought that is the kind of like that's the kind of organization that I want to be considered to be with, joined with. But is it necessary to find a church? I think it's necessary to have fellowship with people that believe similar to what you believe. And in a church body, that is an important thing. As I age, as I understand that there will come a time when one of us could pass away and leave the other, I think a church body is very, very important. Not because I'm going to need somebody to do something for me, but let's say I just need other women.
Yeah, you need that support.
Need maybe other. And yes, you can find that kind of thing in other places other than a church. But I think the older I get, just turned 61, and I'm not ashamed to say
you
that
do
at
not
all.
look like you're 61 at all.
Every freaking year of it.
You do not.
Well,
I hope I look as
for
good.
20.
Right? Somebody asked me that not that long ago. They're like, because I had worked with a new person, and she's like, well, how old are you? Like 30 something? I'm like, no. But thank you. She's like, no, I would have thought you were like maybe 31, maybe. I'm like, perfect. Let's just keep it at that.
So our new makeup secret is
Right,
don't wear any
makeup.
for the first 30 years of your life,
Yes.
and you'll look 20 for a long
Right,
time.
Exactly. And then you can wear makeup and start covering the blemishes you get. But I really do
Just
think
a
that
little
helps.
mascara.
Yeah.
I don't think your lashes could be damaged much.
Right.
But
That's funny. That is so funny.
where were we at?
If it's necessary, the support.
Yeah. So the support is important, and although the Christianese does bug me, and there's certain things I can't necessarily say right now, like I'll pray for you, or because that would be a lie unless I just did it right now in the privacy of my own brain. I couldn't say things like, oh, we are so blessed, or not we are so blessed, but oh my God has blessed us so much. And hearing other people say that
in my brain, I automatically go, well, who are you? Like, why wouldn't he have blessed this other person?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah. Yes,
exactly.
That's how I feel too.
Are you so important that God's blessed you? Or,
right.
We used to say terms like, we're too blessed to be stressed.
Oh my gosh, that's
I'm
so cheesy. I'm stressed all the time.
I get stressed sometimes. So, and here's another thing. I have a friend that's very, very into her church. And if I cuss in front of her, she will look away, or she'll
stop it.
She won't tell me that it's bad, but she'll not laugh. Like if I'll say something and I'll cuss, because I cuss now because I spent 28 years not cussing, and now I've got a lot of cussing. I've got a lot of cussing.
Yeah. We cuss every now and again on this podcast. It's fine. You're in good company.
Like shit.
It's fine. It happens. It happens.
And I'm a little worried that things will fly and I'll be made to feel guilty less than. Because a bad word comes out of my mouth. Here's my thoughts. I feel like the scriptures that talk about, and this is just for me, but I feel like the scriptures that talk about an evil word coming out of your mouth is more
gossip,
to the effect of gossip and slander and yes, all those things, rather than shit.
Right.
My glass fell off the table.
Right, exactly.
So
yes.
if I say, oh shit, my glass fell off the table, and you judge me immediately, like, sorry, but I might have to limit my time with you.
Right. No, you have to feel comfortable, with the people you're around. Like, I feel like you have to be yourself.
Yep.
And, the whole curse word thing, since we're on the subject, I try not to have a sailor mouth. I really don't. Because I do feel like, on some level, especially, my job, and professionalism, but if I'm with my friends and I say a word or something, if they judge me, I don't know if I don't know. One of my good friends, Kelly, I'll just tell on her, Kelly. We were in church, and she said something, and I was like, we're standing at the sanctuary. But wait, worse, Lori. Oh my gosh, if we're on this conversation, I will totally tell on myself. It's hilarious, and I'm pretty sure I told the story in the podcast before. But I was walking into the sanctuary, and for whatever reason, the pastor decided to close the balcony that Sunday, and I have no idea why, because our church was packed. And I walk in, it's completely pitch black because they're doing some kind of presentation or something. And I walk in and I'm like, can't see nothing. There's no seats. And of course we were late. And I looked at my husband, I'm like, well, where the hell are we supposed to sit? And our pastor comes up behind me and sticks his hand on my shoulder, and he's like, there's some chairs over there. I was like, all right, definitely checking that off my list, going to hell for sure. But what makes it a bad word is culture. And, I feel like if you're in good company, it's not. If it's not offensive to the people you're around, and if it's appropriate for the situation, I think you're fine.
And maybe that's the thing. I work for a police department, and I hear F-bombs
all the time. Yeah,
every moment of the day. So it does. It
rubs off on you.
Yeah, it does rub off on. And maybe once we retire and leave our current employment, it will be different. But as of right now.
Yeah. Anyway, say all that to say, community and support.
Community, especially
100%.
Ladies. I miss women. When I left, I would say over 100 women I was friends with. Not close friends, but Facebook friends. If we met them out, go to dinner, blah, blah, blah. Gone. So that long-term ladies friendship, I lost completely, with the exception of maybe one. And she's iffy because she's busy. She's still in church.
Yeah,
so,
which takes up your entire life.
Yeah, which takes up your entire life. So I've been working on trying to, form. I work mostly with men. It's hard. It's difficult to find women that have similar likes, dislikes. That moment where you go, oh, and you can just laugh about anything together.
Right.
That kind of friendship is priceless with another friend. And I know at my age, I'm probably not going to have a bevy of women that maybe I'll go to, on a girls' trip with, or run down to Branson for a weekend or something like that.
Oh, if you go to Branson, I'll go with you. We can have a girls' trip. I'm down.
But I mean, I have hope that maybe it could happen, and it will take time, and it takes effort too. And now my effort is a little more onto my husband, and so I have to kind of focus sometimes on. Even coming here today, I was like, let's go, because these are ladies that I've known for a long time, not met face to face. And it was important to me. So, and I'm really glad I came.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad it was an idea and thought of, and glad that I happened to see it on Facebook.
Thanks,
and I was
Mary.
like, hey. So, community is important. And honestly, it is difficult when you are coming out of something that has hurt you and your trust is gone, because I know I will say, I never had the experience of panic attacks at the churches or at the church that we are now, but
That's
trusting
great.
people and just opening up to people, it was huge for me. It was very difficult. And I, just by who I am as a person, from other trauma, not even church related, I don't trust people. I just don't. And forming friendships is difficult. I will say I am very thankful, because I do feel like I have a large group of people at this point where they do pray for me. And I appreciate that. So I do have a small group of women at church, and it's not like we created a small group formally or anything. It's just, we're just happen to be at the same place, same time kind of thing. And we've just gotten close. And so it's one of those things, I started this new thing at work, and I was super nervous about it because, they asked me to do phlebotomy. I'm like, I've never done phlebotomy in my life. I have no idea how to do that. I'm like, what on my resume makes you think that I can do that? But I started doing it. They taught me, and it's really easy and really fun, actually. But I was super nervous the first time I went out to do that for the day.
Which phlebotomy is, for us that don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Blood draws. Blood draws. So yeah. So basically part of my company's job is to go to different workplaces for people and draw blood for health screenings and stuff. So I started doing that, and it was so nerve wracking. I was like, oh my gosh, what if I miss these people's veins and I have to poke them with a needle? I felt really bad. It's always the me second guessing me, it's always just my insecurities. It was fine, but whatever. But it was nice. I had a group of women, and I'm like, hey, this is stupid and, like very trivial in life, but can you just say a prayer for me real quick? Cause I'm super nervous. I don't want to like mess this up. It's my first event, and I had like 8 or 9 women immediately. Yes. Right now I'm praying for you. And I appreciated that because sometimes I doubt my own prayers, but like, I feel like other people, I don't, and I know that's my own issues too. But
I think that's common. But here's the bottom line. I think if it works for you, it works. Mm-hmm. And if you're not ready to find a church yet,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
that doesn't make you a non-Christian. That doesn't make you a non-believer.
I think the line in the sand is the salvific, and if it's a secondary issue. And this is like definitely a secondary issue. This is not a matter of heaven or hell situation. Yeah. If you are stuck in a place where you're too anxious to go or you just can't find a good church, I don't feel like you need to have that pressure either. But
totally.
On the flip side, like I do feel like it's beneficial because of like what we're saying, community and support. And honestly, I like to go and learn. So
yeah,
I like to go and I like to hear the apologetics and the theology. And I like those deep dives into like just one verse of scripture. Like what is the context behind this one verse of scripture? And I love just sitting and soaking that in. Mm-hmm. But I know for a lot of people that's tough too, because even reading the Bible can be triggering for some people. So if you're in that place, even that's okay too. Like reading the Bible makes it easier probably to get to heaven, but it's not a prerequisite. Like it's not, Jesus came on the cross to die and give us life. And he didn't make a list of rules to live up to that. Like he just gave it to you for free. So I think that we put so much pressure on ourselves. Like, oh, I have to find a church. I have to read the Bible. I have to pray a certain amount of time every day. And while those things are super important in your Christian walk, that's not something that you're going to get sent to hell over if you can't do it.
There's no scripture that says if you don't study, you're lost.
Right.
There's no scripture that says that. So I'm glad that I'm super glad that you guys just walked into a good, healthy church, a healthy body of believers. We are the church, right?
Right. Yeah.
We're the church. So finding community, finding your people might look so different for different people. And that's the cool thing about this whole journey is as public people, we do hear lots of stories of other people's journeys and travels and how different people make it different ways. They get through it different ways. I think a lot of people that grew up in it renounce everything and their story's not over, hopefully, until they can figure it out a little bit. It's this, the learning though is the cool part because there's so much that wasn't taught.
Right.
So many scriptures that never were taught or preached or anything that we didn't know. And my husband and I have had some great conversations about we'll go home and what did you think about that? Oh, well, this and this and this and that.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody to bounce off ideas with, that's paramount to a good, healthy, introspective looking into how that scripture works with you and with your heart and where you're at. So,
I
think that's the whole ball of wax right there.
Right.
It all in a nutshell.
Yeah. I do think it's worth it though.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it to, and if you do have triggers or if you were, having panic attacks, I've said this 100 million times. I'll say it until I die. Find a therapist. Find a therapist.
Wait,
please.
Therapist. Now, is that biblical?
Right. I mean, if you look, all the people in the Bible talk to people who, like even King David, he sought counsel. So, yes.
It is biblical.
I think it actually is.
It is okay.
It's okay to see Jesus and a therapist.
Very helpful.
Oh my gosh, yes. And just having someone to help you sort through those feelings
but finding the right person.
Right.
I've been to several different therapists.
Yes.
And
I agree
a
with
few
that.
of them didn't understand. A lot of them don't understand what we've been
spiritual
through.
abuse is very difficult. But there are therapists now. If you need help finding one, hit me up because I will help you find one. But they do actually specialize in spiritual abuse and spiritual trauma, and it's amazing. You can look up Naomi Wright and Be Emboldened. She's a lot of good resources. She has a master's degree.
What is it?
Be Emboldened.
Be Emboldened.
Yes, she's got a lot of good resources for that, for finding therapy and stuff too. So, a lot of good places to go for that. Is it imperative to your soul? No. Is it worth it for benefits just to help you as a person? 100% in your walk with Christ. But like, what are the tenets of a good church? Because there's so many denominations. Like, what do you even believe? And I think that is really something that I would say, like, if I could go back, like, to walk through that again, even though, yes, we landed in a good church, but like I said, we got lucky. Like, it just happened. We really felt like God was guiding us there, and I really think he was. But like, if I were to walk through the steps again, I think I would just take a step back, figure out exactly what I believed about every core doctrine, and then started looking for a healthy church. And by healthy church, I don't mean like the biggest church or, whatever, but people have different styles of worship. So if like liturgical churches work better, like we had AJ and Eileen Meals on our channel, and they go to a very liturgical church. And I know a lot of people go from like the UPC and the crazy worship to something very liturgical, and they found comfort in that. Yeah. And that's okay. Totally. If that works best for you, then awesome. Some people like the worship and the style of music, so they would tend to go to like Assembly of God or other charismatic churches that are similar. And if that's what you feel comfortable with, awesome, do that.
Fortunately, most churches on their websites will list out what we believe. And so you can look at that, see if it aligns with what your own beliefs are. And if they don't, mark it off the list.
Yep.
I had literally a list.
That's awesome.
Of all the churches in the area that I would have attended. And I would cross them off one by one as I looked through. So that's how we kind of narrowed down to this one that we're at now. There's still a few options, though. You got to have that. I mean, seriously, because, I do feel like plurality of elders, I can never say that word right. It's not like you have to have that in your church, but I think that's super helpful for accountability. Because I know a lot of people were burned by the pastor and other people in leadership. So I think if you have that, it's kind of a safety net for people. We have something that I'm not wild about, and that is that one of the pastors also does the money. And my husband is like, that's not good.
Scary.
Because he knows who's doing tithes, who the givers are. And I think that's dangerous, and that's where the high givers get to run the decisions.
Right.
And so that's kind of where we're at now. We're kind of looking at that. So
I mean, and
it's
that's
not
one
an
of those
easy
things. Like, you can step back and watch, and I don't think there's a church that's going to be like 100% perfect, because they're all human ran,
right?
Like, and I don't mean to like let them off the hook or whatever.
No, but
I mean, we're all people. We all
you
make
have to
mistakes.
decide what your battles are going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And do I agree 100% with everything that's ever said at my church? Absolutely not. I do not. There's definitely been a couple of things where I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. But it's never been anything that's like earth shattering or something I'm gonna leave over. But like I said,
and that can be a process.
Oh, 100%.
So you go one place and nope, not gonna work for me, and you move on.
Yeah.
And that's why jumping in both feet and then being a member really quick was not. It's not the greatest idea.
And we didn't do that right away either. I think we had been going there for almost a year.
That's
before we did.
I would say a year.
Yeah.
It's 100%. like a dating. It's like a dating relationship, right?
Yes, I agree.
So would you marry somebody after you've met them 2 months? Probably not.
Well, some people do, but it probably didn't work out very well.
True story. But they say a year dating before you really know a person, and I would say a good 8 months to a year before you make a decision about a particular.
And if you've just left, like, I would very highly recommend to not jump in with both feet and get involved in choir and Sunday school and whatever else you want. Like,
give yourself a break.
No, let yourself heal.
Yeah,
Like, give
healing.
yourself a break. Let yourself heal. Like, let yourself feel all the feelings, because you're not done grieving immediately after
So
you leave.
true.
Like, it
So
takes
true.
a long time to get through all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, especially those of us who are in the UPC longer than 10, 15 years. I mean, you had that long for that indoctrination to happen. So it's going to take you a long time to sort through all of that.
Yep.
And I hate to call all of my experience trauma, because it really wasn't. I had good experiences, but that's a lot of trauma to unpack.
Yeah.
And I think give yourself grace. And
Well, I think a lot of the trauma came when you leave is the people that you lose.
right.
The losses of friendships and stuff that you did 3 times a week or 4 times a week.
Right.
No longer you're doing that. So enjoy it.
Right.
I mean, that's what I did. I was like, I'm enjoying this. I don't
Heck
have to
yeah.
be anywhere on every Sunday or every
Right.
Wednesday night.
My favorite thing is, like, we can miss church and it's okay.
I love
Like,
that.
no one comes after us. Like,
And
no
it's
one is checking a
okay.
box to make sure we're there. Like, no one, and you mentioned, like, no one's called you. And I think, I don't know how I would feel about that personally. Like, I think I'd be okay with it. I think
I'm
I'd be
totally
like,
okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't call me?
But we don't have any
Perfect.
close friends there either. We don't have any close friends that would say, "Hey, are you okay?" I think if that was the issue, and
Yeah.
our close friends knew we hadn't been to church for 3 or 4 weeks in a row, yeah, give me a call. If
Right.
maybe I'm sick and you don't know it, and yeah, sure. But for the pastor, and here's another thing is another kind of litmus test. Does the pastor, is he interested in the community? Or is he sitting behind a desk for 40 hours a week, answering phone calls and maybe doing a couple hospital visits? Or on the flip side, is he doing all the hospital visits and you damn well expect him to do the hospital visits because he's the pastor and you're paying him the money to do it? So
Also a valid point. But, you know, we had a pastor one time that he wouldn't even eat with us, like the regular saints. When we
Wow.
had like servings and stuff in the basement of the church, he wouldn't even go down there. He would make his wife take him a plate up to his office. So
I see
like
that.
it was completely segregated. And yeah. And then when we got
So
to
much for serving the people.
right.
Yeah.
But then we got to the next UPC church that we attended, and it was completely different. And we were blown away because the pastor was always serving. He was always, vacuuming the floors and sitting with us. We went on vacations with him. Like, we were very close. And so I do applaud that style of leadership, because I feel like that's what your job is. Like, you're not any better. And our pastor the other night at church actually said this from the pulpit, and I appreciated him saying it. It was, the pastor is not anybody special. It's not anybody. He's like, I'm just like, the pastors here are just saints, and we have a calling, but everyone else has callings too, like
Very true.
teachers and whatever. And he's like, we're no one special. We're here to serve. And that's huge for me as somebody who didn't get to eat with my pastor when I was growing up. Anything else you want to add, Lori? Anything else? Any
I
thoughts?
do not think so, but I have
Okay.
enjoyed this very much.
I know, it was fun.
Very fun.
It was a
And
fun
I hope,
impromptu little meeting.
Audiences enjoy it, and call Hollywood, maybe be famous.
Yeah. Anybody want to be
may-
our agents? So
Here.
we're totally fine with that. We will be-
Agents, call.
Right. All right, guys. We'll see you later.